Hi everybody, welcome to Aimee Nolte Music. A diminished chord is a part of harmony that keeps things moving. It keeps things interesting. It intrigues you.
Get your game on, go play.
You can think of it as a bridge between one chord and the next.
It takes so long, my lord.
And it's the chord of nearly endless possibilities.
If you move the B flat to an A, it takes you to D. If you move the C sharp to a C, it takes you to F. If you move the E to an E flat, it takes you to A flat. And if you move the G to an F sharp, it takes you to B.
It can evoke many emotions like eeriness or mystery, anticipation, suspense, suspicion, or as I like to call it, the raised eyebrow. George Harrison called it the sneaky chord. There's a ton of tension in the diminished chord. The fully diminished seventh chord has two tritones within it, for crying out loud. It begs for release.
Time it goes so fast.
I'd like to tell you about several songs in popular music that have employed the diminished chord, and artists that have successfully used the diminished chord to create that kind of intrigue
Get your game on.
in their music. One way a diminished chord can be used is as a passing chord in place of a dominant chord. So say for instance, and it's actually the most popular one I could find in all of my research of popular music, the chord that is a half step below the minor 2 chord. So say we're in the key of C and we're moving to D minor. A half step below D is a C sharp. So a fully diminished seventh chord, C sharp, E, G, and B flat, can be used to take us to that minor 2 chord. And in the same fashion, we can be taken to the minor 3 chord or the minor 6 chord by way of half step below fully diminished seventh chords. Now you have to be careful when you're using this kind of fully diminished seventh chord to take you to the minor key that's a half step above, because all you have to do is add one more note to the bottom, and this fully diminished seventh chord becomes a dominant seventh chord with a flat 9. Here's a few songs that do that. Friends in Low Places by Garth Brooks.
Blame it all on my roots. I showed up in boots. I ruined your black tie affair.
With the song Friends in Low Places, this is how it sounds with that diminished chord leading to the minor 2. Blame it all on my roots. I showed up in boots and ruined. We end up on a B minor, started in A major. But what if we viewed that diminished chord as the upper structure of a dominant seventh chord, or F sharp, dominant 7 with a flat 9? So instead of being B flat, fully diminished seventh, it's F sharp 7 with a flat 9. How would that sound? Blame it all on my roots. I showed up in boots and ruined. They're so close, aren't they? I do think that the diminished sound is a little more eyebrow raising. But that's just my opinion. Life on Mars by David Bowie.
It's about to be writ again.
We're All Alone, Rita Coolidge.
So cry no more on the shore a dream. Well,
Love is in the Air by John Paul Young.
that I must believe in, and it's there when I look in your eyes.
We Are the Champions by Queen.
Till the end.
If I Ain't Got You by Alicia Keys.
some people live for the power, yeah.
Let's do another one of these with Alicia Keys' If I Ain't Got You, the song that's in G, and it's also going to move by way of diminished seventh chord up to the 2 minor. Some people live just for the power. There's that intrigue. But if she would have done it the other way, if we would have used a secondary dominant chord to get to A minor, or the 5 of A minor, so it's E7 with a flat 9. Some people live for the power. the difference with that root note on the bottom, as opposed to people live just for the power. It's a raise this way. Otherwise, it's a drop down. Live for the power. Both are great. They just have a different effect. When We Were Young by Adele. I'll have to say I love you with a song by Jim Croce.
Every time I tried to tell you, the words just came out wrong.
One More Try by George Michael.
That you let me know.
The next device I want to talk about is the sharp 4 diminished chord moving to either the 5, the dominant, or the tonic 6/4, which is the 1 chord with the 5th on the bottom. This kind of harmonic movement is really common within a variation of the 12-bar blues, where in the 6th bar, the 4 chord happens and moves from the 5th bar, a regular 4 chord, to the 6th bar, a sharp 4 diminished chord, before taking us to the tonic 6/4 usually. An example of this can be heard in this classic Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross tune.
A song of love and love alone.
More examples of the sharp 4 diminished moving to 5 or tonic 6/4 are Spooky,
Stop and say, all right, love is kind.
well, we've already played it, but All Star by Smash Mouth.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play.
Someday We'll Be Together by the Supremes.
Baby, is there stars above? Wanna say, wanna say, wanna say.
And a slightly different variation where you don't take the sharp 4 diminished, but instead the chord before the dominant chord is the 2 diminished, not the 2 half diminished that's also very common, but just a straight 2 diminished chord moving to the dominant. This happens in Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Tyler in an epic way, I think. Also in At This Moment by Billy Vera.
When you're standing before me with tears.
There are times when a diminished 7th chord can be used in place of the dominant chord. So that dominant sound never quite happens. It's just more of a diminished chord that is the dominant sound. This happens on 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover by Paul Simon.
The answer is easy if you take it logically.
Let's take another example on this Paul Simon tune, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. It's in E minor. The problem is all inside your head, she said to me. Here's a B7 chord, that's the dominant, but this next time he raises his eyebrow, and instead of going to the dominant chord, B7, he goes to the D sharp diminished chord. The answer is easy if you take it logically. So he uses that eyebrow raising kind of lift instead of 5 before he actually goes to the 5. This Love by Maroon 5.
Chaos that controlled my mind.
Thank You Next by Ariana Grande. And I'll See the Light by Yngwie Malmsteen. Sometimes the diminished 7th chord can be used, like I said, like an eyebrow raising kind of situation where you might embellish the 1 chord by moving up a half step to the fully diminished 7th chord, or moving down a half step, fully diminished 7th chord. Or you might do that to the 4 chord or to the 5 chord. Just cases where we're embellishing a chord. That happens in Blue Jay Way by the Beatles.
There's a fog upon LA.
She's Out of My Life by Michael Jackson.
She's out of my life.
As well as Thriller. Dim All the Lights by Donna Summer. These are songs that embellish the 4 chord. A really nice example is on Walking After You by the Foo Fighters. China Doll by Grateful Dead.
Before I hit the ground,
The Logical Song by Supertramp.
it was beautiful, magical, and all the
Songs that embellish the dominant, or the five, are Michelle by the Beatles,
These are words that go together well.
Manic Monday by the Bangles,
Time it goes so fast. It's just another manic Monday.
Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen,
Easy come, easy go.
God Only Knows by the Beach Boys.
You never need to doubt it.
The last thing I want to talk about is that diminished seventh chords can be used just for effect, just for the eeriness or the mystery or the suspicion. And they can even be used in kind of a wild way. I call them the wild ones. Jealous by Labyrinth.
As I sing in the sand, watch you slip through my hands. Oh,
And maybe the most wild one, Remember the Time by Michael Jackson. It just hits it and stays on it. It's pretty much the hook of the song. At the very end of Remember the Time, it's just a straight diminished chord. C sharp, fully diminished. But at the beginning of the song, the same diminished seventh chord is used, but with a C in the bass. So the song's in F minor, and it's like a dominant seventh chord. We've got a C in the bass, though. We could think of this as one of those tricky ones that's C7, really. C, E, G, B flat, and D flat at the beginning of the song, but not at the end. He uses the same sound, but in two different ways, which is really cool. It's been really fun for me to listen to popular music over the course of the last couple of months and make lists of all of the songs I can find that use diminished chords like this. And thank you for my hive mind on social media that helped me to think of so many songs that I hadn't thought of myself. As you listen to music, keep your ears open for these diminished chords. Be careful, because sometimes a diminished chord can fool you. You think it's diminished, but really, it's like we talked about, just that upper structure of a dominant seventh chord with a flat 9. But figure it out. Try to find instances of diminished chords. I'm sure you'll think of some that I missed. You could put them in the comments. And thanks everybody so much for watching Aimee Nolte Music. I'll see you next time.